Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing with our series, Blunting Occam's Razor. In this video we're going to be taking a look at what is the paradox of solipsism. Now, so far we have looked at why you might be concerned with the claim that simplicity implies truth and the challenges facing proponents of Occam's Razor to provide a clear explanation of what it really means for a theory to be parsimonious or elegant. However, in my mind, the strongest case against Occam's Razor is that skeptical duplication scenarios are almost always simpler and more explanatory than our current scientific theories. In other words, if proponents of Occam's Razor were truly to take their maxim to heart, they would all be philosophical skeptics and therefore doubt Occam's Razor. The principle is self-defeating because if we really accept it, it implies that the most likely scenario is that we are in a duplication scenario. So, there are many scenarios that can provide this intuition, but the paradox of solipsism is one of the most convincing. This theory is more parsimonious, both quantitatively and qualitatively, than any non-skeptical scenario. It is more elegant as well, providing a complete theory of everything in the universe that can be stated in this short video. It offers equal or better explanatory value, and it predicts the same things as our best modern scientific theories. If the proponents of Occam's Razor were truly committed to the claim that the simpler theory is more likely, when they have equal explanatory value, they would accept such a scenario and therefore reject Occam's Razor. This means that Occam's Razor is self-defeating. So, let's take a look. Here's the hypothesis. There's only one substance, mind. There are only two things in that substance, you and a deceiver. That deceiver makes it appear like there's a physical world that follows the laws of science, but none of it exists. Such a theory makes the same predictions about the future as our modern scientific theories do, because this evil deceiver makes it appear that way, with the exception that the solipsistic theory claims that this will only be how the world appears to you, not how it actually is. It explains everything that happens in the world, even things that our modern scientific theories have yet to explain. Things that we have yet to explain, such as dark matter, etc., appear that way because the evil deceiver wished them to. And it gives us a rock-bottom explanation that science can't give us for why is everything here because the evil deceiver wanted it that way. And above all, it is simple. It can be explained in a few sentences, it can be explained in the extent of this slide, so it is very elegant. It's parsimonious, it has very few things that it's positing. It posits one type of thing and only two instances of that thing, compared to modern scientific theories that posit thousands of types of things and Googleplexes of instances of those things. So this leads to the following argument. The solipsistic hypothesis is simpler than our modern scientific theories. It only posits one type of thing and two tokens of that thing, and it can be stated in a few sentences, something that none of our current scientific theories can do. The solipsistic hypothesis is equal to or more explanatory than our modern scientific theories. It can explain why things exist that our modern scientific theories cannot yet. The evil deceiver wanted them to appear that way. And it doesn't have to explain really anything because at the end of the day it's only explaining appearances because only two things exist. And it at least has equal explanatory value to our scientific theories because within the appearances, those appearances are explained in the same way the scientific theories would explain them. Premise 3. The solipsistic hypothesis is equally predictive as our modern scientific theories. It makes the exact same predictions as our modern scientific theories would, except it's making predictions about those being appearances instead of reality. Premise 4. Occam's Razor. When two theories have equal explanatory or predictive power, we should prefer the simpler one. It's important to note here that we've said either equal explanatory or predictive power. So you have to reject both premises 2 and 3 or change the way we're framing Occam's Razor in premise 4 in order to deny the conclusion. Therefore, we should prefer the solipsistic hypothesis to modern scientific theories because the solipsistic hypothesis is simpler than our modern scientific theories, it has equal or greater explanatory power than our modern scientific theories, and it has equal predictive power to our modern scientific theories. But this is where the paradox arises. If C is true, then we should reject Occam's Razor, because in a world controlled by a deceiver, simplicity does not necessarily imply truth. The theories that are in line with the deceivers will imply truth. In fact, there are few true statements to be had about the real world because it's all appearances. If simplicity is not a guide for truth, there's no reason to accept Occam's razor in the first place. This means that while the solipsistic scenario remains a possible theory to explain the world, we remain underdetermined as to whether or not it's preferable to other theories, since any guideline like Occam's razor that would point us towards a simpler theory would point us towards this solipsistic scenario because it's far simpler than our current scientific theories and has equal explanatory value, and therefore lead us to reject Occam's razor anyway. The proponent of Occam's razor might contend that the solipsistic hypothesis does not have comparable explanatory value to our scientific theories. If we ask, why is the sky blue, the proponent of Occam's razor might respond that this is because of Rayleigh scattering that causes shorter wavelengths of light to spread more, and humans are more sensitive to blue than violet light. This could be considered a more complete explanation than the one offered by the solipsistic scenario. However, the solipsistic hypothesis might respond that under their theory, the deceiver makes it appear that light is going through Rayleigh scattering, etc., etc., etc. The exact same explanation the scientist would offer, but saying that this is merely the way the deceiver makes the world appear. Those both offer completely the same amount of explanatory power. One might ask why this is happening, but the solipsist can simply take whatever response the scientist would provide and say that the deceiver makes it appear that way. There will be a point when such espouses from the scientist run dry, but that only shows that these theories are at least equally explanatory, since the solipsist can simply take the scientific response and then take on that the deceiver might make it appear that way. Note that this argument is not actually making the case that the solipsistic hypothesis is true. Same argument could be made in many different skeptical scenarios. Rather, it's showing that if Occam's razor is true, we should accept or prefer the solipsistic hypothesis as well as any number of skeptical scenarios, and therefore reject Occam's razor in turn because Occam's razor would be false in such a world. What this means is that Occam's razor is inherently a self-defeating proposition, that if accepted, it leads us to a good reason to reject it. Many proponents of Occam's razor seem to be hypocrites, only using it to justify those theories that they already accepted, and ignoring much simpler and more explanatory theories like the solipsistic hypothesis. Or perhaps they do not mean it to be a real epistemic rule for choosing between options, but rather merely an expression of preference for desert landscapes instead of Mignon jungle. The point here is that there are many simpler theories, largely skeptical scenarios, which have equal explanatory and predictive power to our modern scientific theories because they are arguing that these are duplication worlds, that the deceiver of whatever kind, whether it's a mad scientist with a brain in a vat, Descartes' evil deceiver, or the one we've posited here, are making it appear like the predictions of scientific theories are accurate. And that is far simpler. It posits fewer things in the world. It can be stated more easily than all of our scientific theories, any of our scientific theories. And so if you really prefer something with equal explanatory value and that is simpler, either in terms of the number of things it posits or how it is stated, you should prefer skeptical scenarios to the explanations that are offered in science. And if you prefer those skeptical scenarios, you should reject Occam's razor. Occam's razor is inherently self-defeating. What do you think? Is the solipsistic hypothesis simpler than our modern scientific theories? Or is it equally or more explanatory? Is Occam's razor self-defeating because it points us towards simple, skeptical scenarios where Occam's razor is not true? Is this just a preference that some have tried to make into a principle despite its lack of justification and potentially self-defeating nature? Do we just like things that are simpler because they're easier to remember, they're easier to spread, they're easier to teach, but in fact, given all of the things we've seen in this scenario, in this series, that over time, theories get more complicated, not less complicated. There's very little justification for a connection between simplicity and truth. It's extremely hard to define simplicity. And when you look at it, the theories that are the most simple are those that would reject Occam's razor. Is it the case that Occam's razor should be used to imply truth, or is it a useful principle maybe for doing things, but not in our pursuit of truth and knowledge? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching this series and coming on this journey with me. Subscribe, like the video, and as always, stay skeptical, everybody.